on, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Mind of Mateo. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Look, it has been a crazy week or 2 weeks in my life right now. I've got a lot of things going on in the business that are just stretching me, stretching my patience, stretching my ability to lead, my ability to stay calm under pressure. And, I always talk about how when passion or emotion are high, logic is usually very low. And so learning how to bring down the passion or bring down the emotion when under a very stressful state has been something that I've really been putting to the test this week, and trying to get my logic up to a point where I'm making decisions that make sense for the most part. And I'm not just shooting off the hip, making decisions that may get me in trouble or whatnot. And so, I've been going through this thought process, and this whole everything that I've been going through. I'll talk about it in another episode later in the future. I'm excited to talk about it, but this whole thought process has got me contemplating and reminiscing and thinking about past decisions, not anything that I'm regretting, nothing like that. But just I'm now in a new phase of my life, and I'm seeing things so differently. Getting into entrepreneurship, starting a business 2 years ago has changed my life. I'm not one of those guys that you're going to hear. It's awesome that there are guys out there that have been doing this since they were young, they're kids and everything. I'm not one of those people. I've held a job since I was about, I think, 12 or 13, and I never dreamt of doing anything like entrepreneurial or anything like that. It's just been about 2 years ago, and it's something that I've noticed about myself in this whole learning process, how it's so easy to get stuck in the cycle of being a consumer. It's so easy to stay in that mode because it's comfortable. It's easy to just consume and be entertained, and even trick yourself into looking like you're making progress when all you're doing is really entertaining yourself. And it's much harder, in my opinion, to start being creative, start creating. And one thing that I've noticed is when I am creating, there are many great things. It's when I feel alive. It's when I'm feeling excitement. It's when I'm seeing possibility. It's when I'm really stretching myself. It's when my mind is growing. But there's a lot of scary things that come with it too. There's the unknown. There's a lot of failure, trials, and error. It's tough. There's a lot of good, but there's a lot of things that are unsettling as well. And so I see how it's easy to get stuck in consuming. And I've been having conversations with a lot of people, and also, like I said, reminiscing about past experiences. And it's got me thinking how a lot of times I see that myself and maybe other people as well, they go through life like, why is this happening? Why am I at the point that I am right now? Why is life so hard? Why are there things going on? And you feel like you're out of control. And what I'm realizing after going through the last 28, 29 years of my life is that you're just receiving the bill for the actions that you've already taken. A lot of times it's not happening to you. You're just you're experiencing the results of something that you've done, an action that you've taken, and that's not for everything. There are some things that don't fall into that category, but for most people, that's the way it is. And so, I don't think many, at least myself, I'm speaking about here, ever took the time to sit down and say, well, why is it that I'm experiencing this right now? Why am I going through this right now? What is it that I've done? And maybe what I've done, the way that I've thought, ideology that I've been using is not working. So maybe I should switch it up and not just think that me being me or me telling my truth or whatever you want to say is good enough, because a lot of the time, and most times, it's not. And I feel like a lot of people don't see that. And like I said, I'm talking to myself here because I know there were so many times where it's like, I want to do it my way. I want to do it this way. I feel like this is the best way. when all I needed to do was sit down for a moment and take a look and learn a little more and then put it into action. And so today I want to talk about, what are you practicing? What is it in your life that you are practicing to do, or that you've convinced yourself you're practicing to get into? That can be entrepreneurship. It can be a newer job, or you're trying to go for a promotion. It could be you're trying to be a husband, you're trying to be a wife, whatever it might be that you are looking at. What I want to caution you and also give you some steps to help you with is, don't get stuck as a consumer. Don't get stuck in consumption. Don't get stuck in research. And the reason why I say this is because I feel like I'm too qualified to speak on this subject, because I have a tendency, when I find something, when I look at something, when I learn about something, I become obsessive about it. I want to learn everything about it. I want to learn the ins and outs, the knickknacks, all that kind of stuff. But I used to always get stuck on the learning portion, on the studying, on the research. I was stuck as a consumer, and I would tell myself everything. Oh, maybe I just got to learn a little bit more. Oh, I just got to learn this. I got to learn that, blah, 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 blah. And I would never actually go through and follow through and do it and turn that knowledge that I've gained into wisdom. And so, it's dangerous, because you get into this kind of cycle of you're doing all this self-help stuff. You're learning about whatever it might be, and you end up really never making any meaningful progress, but you feel like you're doing stuff because you're learning. And in reality, you can be wasting time. I'll say can be. But this is the thing, right? I want to give you a few steps. How do you go from consumer to creator, if that's what you desire? And I dare say that everyone should be creating something. But how do you go from, you say, Mateo, I want to do this. How do you go from consuming content, consuming, all this information, doing all this research, to actually doing it and learning about it firsthand and doing what it is you want to do? I got a few steps. Hopefully they'll help. But this is what's helped me. One, you got to be intentional with what you're searching for. Listen, you can't just go out there and look at, 5,000 ways to make money. Let's just use that as an example. Or whatever it might be. Don't just sit there and start looking for a bunch of random different things. Don't listen, for every single time that I have gone just randomly searching and found something that has actually helped me, there are hundreds, if not thousands of times that I've just wasted a bunch of time. And so don't just go aimlessly searching. Know at least ballpark what it is that you're looking for. Is there a certain industry that you're interested in getting in? Maybe it's entrepreneurship. Maybe it's intrapreneurship. Maybe you want to, get married one day. Maybe you want to have kids. Fill in the blank with whatever it is, but be intentional about what you're going to be searching for. At least somewhat. Put yourself in a direction. Don't go shooting, here. You're starting research about one thing, and then you jump onto another thing, and then you jump onto another thing, and then you jump onto another thing. Man, I know I run into people, they're into investments one day, and then they're into real estate another day, and then, they're into entrepreneurship another day, and then they're into this and that and the third. And then I ask them, like, hey, what's going on, bro? You how you doing? What you into? Oh, yeah, this next thing, blah, blah, it's hot. And I'm like, well, what have you done? What have you actually spent time to do other than research? It's like, oh, I'm looking for the next best thing. I'm looking for the thing. I want to be able to strike when the time comes. I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's been 3 years. You still waiting? You haven't pulled the trigger on any of them? You haven't gone through on anything? So be intentional with what you're searching for. Number 1. 2, take some kind of action on what you have just learned about. Knowledge is many times more likely to stick if you take what you just learned and apply it. This is the point in which I failed 9 times out of 10. This is the point where you actually go from consumer to creator. This is the point where you actually become what it is that you're trying to become. And what do I say by that? Let me give you an example real quick. I work with Jan Smith, Mama J. Love her, love her. She was my vocal coach for many years. I don't know if I can say many. I think it was like 2 years, maybe 3 years. But I guess that counts as many years. But I remember there was one day she asked me, son, what are you trying to become? I said, well, I'm trying to be a singer. And she looked at me, and I'll never forget this. She said, you're not trying to become a singer. You are a singer. And I sat there, and that one conversation shattered the insecurities that I was feeling at the time. And I sat there, I thought about it, and I said, she's right. Even though I may not feel like I have attained the level that I want to get to, I am a singer. I'm working on it. I'm here every week training with her. I'm doing this week after week after week. I'm grinding my butt off, doing all these things to improve. I am a singer. Even though I may not see myself as a professional, I am a singer. And so I'll say the same thing. This is when the point where you start to take what you've learned and you start to apply it and you start to become the thing that you want to be. Super important. It's a pivoting point. It's very important that you take this next step, because if all you do is research, number one, and then you don't apply, number two, right? You don't take the next step to go ahead and take that knowledge you've garnered and turn it into wisdom, you're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to waste a ton of time. And there are going to be opportunities that you miss out on that you have no idea that are right around the corner, right? No idea. And so you want to make sure that you go ahead, you research, you figure out what the next steps are. Is there something that I can take action on right now? Yes, take action on it, right? Do it, because it's going to help you, and it's also going to be a learning moment. You're going to learn in the time that you take to do that thing, right? And then you'll also notice that the action will stop you from aimlessly scrolling, and it helps out a ton. And then you go to number 3, right? So you've done research, you've taken action. Now what? You'll notice that the action that you take is going to lead you to another question. And that question is going to give you a specific, intentional thing to search for again. And then you do the same thing. You search for that specific thing, and then you apply number 2. You take action on it, right? And the next thing, I guess, is I'd say it is a step. I was going to say it was a tip, but I think it's still another step, is you can't let fear keep you in analysis paralysis. You can't let it cause you to overanalyze a situation, because what will happen is you will think that you need to know more before you can take the next step, when in reality, people have done it knowing far less. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, you've spent 5, 10, 15, 20 hours, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks learning about, 3, 4, 5, 6 months learning about. There's somebody who knew nothing about it, who went out and got it done and accomplished it. Not saying that was the greatest way to do it, but I'm just saying I've learned more times, more often than not, real life experience is better than book smarts. That's just my opinion. That's what I've seen in my own personal life. That's how I got into IT. I mean, I learned enough from a book that got me my first job. And then from there, it was all hands-on experience. And, I was able to do more with only a high school diploma than a lot of guys who took 4 years of college or 5 or 6 years of college. That's just how it was. I had enough book smarts to get me in the door, and then I was smart enough and always looking to learn and growing and improving myself. And I had, I guess you could say, the street smarts to get the job done. So don't let fear keep you in analysis paralysis or overanalyzing anything. And then 5, This one is one that I struggle with. You may not struggle with. If you don't, great. But for those of you who do out there, you need to know that it doesn't really matter how much you study. The likelihood that your first time is not going to be perfect is almost guaranteed. And the likelihood that you probably fail the first few times you do something is just, it comes with the territory. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of doing something not perfect. I use that, my personal experience was I've used that as a crutch to be an excuse as to why I did or didn't do something. Was, oh, I want to make sure that if I put it out there, if it's got my name on it, that it's top notch. Now look, there's a time and a place for that, but when you're just starting something, you're not worrying about perfection. You're not worrying about quality, so to speak. I don't want to say put out junk, but what I'm saying is you got to start, and you're only going to be so good at something. You're not going to be able to compare yourself with someone up there. And that leads me to my next point is, you have to put it in perspective. If you are learning how to, in my case, run a business or build a business, you have to know that there are already people out there. When you may just be learning about it now, today, there are people out there who have been doing this for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. There are obviously people out there who are better than you. Don't start off comparing yourself to those people. You're setting yourself up for failure. Don't do it, right? This is what has helped me so much. And I can't remember who exactly I heard this from. I think it was Robin Sharma. But I heard this way of thinking, which is you don't want to compare yourself to another person, especially if they're farther ahead than you. Not at first. You just want to compare yourself to the person who you were yesterday. Can you be better than the person you were yesterday? If you can do that, that is a win. Build off of that. That means that you're always going to be improving, right? So just try to be better. Actually, don't try. Be better than the person you were yesterday, and watch how things start to change, right? And at some point, you're going to get to a point where you are able to compete against those people who are more experienced than you or who have done it longer than you. But for right now, just focus on being a better person than you were yesterday, or being better at that thing than you were yesterday. All right? I hope this has helped you. I'm going to go over it one more time. 1, be intentional with what you are searching for. 2, take some kind of action on what you've just learned about. Don't just sit on it, right? Turn that knowledge to wisdom. 3, you're going to find that action you just took will lead you to another question to do a little bit more research on, and then take action on that sucker right there. 4, don't let fear keep you in analysis paralysis or overanalyzing anything. Don't allow insecurity to stop you from taking action. 5, doesn't matter how much you study anything, you're most likely not going to be perfect the first time, and you're probably going to fail. It's not a bad thing. Don't fear failure. Don't try to be a perfectionist. Don't lie to yourself. All right? I love y'all. I hope you guys have a great one. And until the next time.